I want to take a few minutes to show you how you can quickly and easily create those attractive scripture graphics that you frequently see shared on social media sites. But I'm going to trust that you already know how to use the Bible app. I've decided I want to share Galatians 5:1. Now, to select a verse, simply tap anywhere on that verse and it will be underlined with a dotted line. When you do that, it brings up a menu down there at the bottom. Just above those colors, you'll see a little menu bar. I'm going to tap on the word image and it is going to prompt me for the image to use. They provide us with a host of wonderful options here to use as background images. Most of them include a good amount of white space, so the text really stands out well. But there are some other options I have here as well. If I tap on that, it's going to let me choose from one of my own images. Or I also have an option here of Google Photos because I've linked my tablet to my Google Photos account. I don't want to do that right now. I want to choose one of the YouVersion provided one. So I'm going to tap anywhere outside of that box to get rid of it. And when you're choosing a background image to use for your scripture graphic, choose an image that supports the text in some way. In this case, we're using a verse about freedom. So I want to find an image that expresses freedom in some way. I'm going to go down to the very bottom here. I saw one that I liked. It's a man holding his arms up high. And to me, that really speaks the word freedom. So I want to use this image. So I'm going to tap on the check mark to say, yes, let's use that image. And what happens is that YouVersion lays the text over top of this image for me. Once that's done, I can tap and move that text around anywhere I want on this image. Simply tap and hold, and then you can move that text around. And you'll notice there are left and right bars around my text. Those will disappear after a few seconds. I tap again to bring them up again. Those are your margins. In landscape mode, they make it a little bit hard to adjust the margins here. So usually if I tap on those bars and move in or out, it's going to adjust those margins. I'm going to try to show you how that works here real quickly. I'm going to switch over to portrait mode. So I'm going to recenter this text and I'm going to just tap on one of those margin bars. I'm going to move that in or out, and you can see that we can actually change that. So depending on the composition of your image, you may want to make it really narrow like that. Or in our case, we've got all that nice white space up above. I want to keep it pretty wide like that. I want you to see that you can do that. Now that I've done that, I'm going to put this back in portrait mode. I'm going to have to reposition my text a little bit. Just click and drag, and there we go. Now I can do some other things to edit my text here. Down below the image, you'll see that there is a size slider, and I can change. That's going to control the size of the text. I like something very big and bold because you want the text to be legible. And on a mobile device, images are still fairly small, so the bigger that text, the easier it's going to be to read. So I like a bigger font here. I also like one that's going to be really nice to read. Down below that size slider, I have lots of font options to choose from. There's more than actually we can see. If I tap and hold anywhere in that list of fonts, I can slide back and forth here to see all of my different font options. Now just above that, off to the right, that's going to allow me to change my line height and my letter spacing. So I can tap, I can make my lines really narrow, or I could make them really wide. So you have some tools here to kind of fine-tune what your text looks like. Same thing with the letter spacing. I could make it really wide, or I can make it very tight. And of course, if I get it too tight, it's going to kind of cram the text together. Down there at the bottom line of icons, you see a big T and a little t and a green bar. That means that right now we're working with the text editing tool. If I double tap anywhere inside my text, it's going to bring up my keyboard, and we're going to have a little cursor in there. I can actually edit the text that is in this box now. So I could actually change this text altogether. I could say, let's say for example, I only want to include the first part of that verse. So I can come down here to where it has the word slavery, and I'm going to delete some of this text. I just want to include the first part where it says, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free." And I usually like to include some space between my verse and the verse reference. And once you like what you've done, tap anywhere outside of that text box, anywhere in the image, and it will get rid of your keyboard. And there's our new edited text. Now you could actually put in a quotation here, and so you could actually use this YouVersion Bible app to create any kind of visual text that you want. Let's take a look at some of the other options that we have now. So down at that very bottom bar, tap on that little icon that looks like a raindrop. This is our color selection tool, so we can change the color of our text. Black and white is two easy options, those two little rectangles there. There's a checkbox on the white box. That means our text is white. If I tap on black, it will change the text to black. So I can swap back and forth between those to see how they look. Now let's say I wanted to choose a different color. I would like yellow here. Over on the right there, you see there's a color palette. If you tap on that, it brings up a color selection tool. I can move this around, or I can just tap somewhere. And I like that color yellow that I've just selected, so I'm going to leave it at that. I tap on the X. Now the other thing that we can do here is we can change the opacity of our text. So whether or not we can see through the text, or how much the background image shines through the text. So I'm going to adjust that just so you can see what it does there. I tend to like my text very bold, so I'm going to leave it up at 100%, but you can adjust the opacity level if you want. On our tool selection area, we can click on the next option there. That's our alignment tool, and we can left align our text, we can right align our text, or we can leave it centered. And the last tool that we have there in the lower right corner is our blur tool. What this does is allows us to blur the background image. And the reason you may want to do this is to help that text really stand out. Now, the image that we have has good white space. If we were to, for example, move our text down here, that might make it a little bit tougher to read. So if I then blurred my image, you see the text stands out a little bit more. Depending on the background image that you choose, you may or may not want to blur that out a little bit. In this case, I like mine in sharp focus. Those are the options that you have for your text. I want to show you one other thing that you can do that I think is really powerful in YouVersion. So I'm going to exit this by tapping on Edit Image. Now, let's say I wanted to share this in Russian. If I tap on that, it's going to bring up my language and version selection tool. One of the options here is CARS, that's Central Asian Russian Scriptures. That's the translation I want to use. And when I do that, it changes the Bible to Central Asian Russian. I want to select that first verse there, and so I tap on that one time. See the dotted line under there. I click on Image, and I'm going to scroll down and find our image with the man with his arms held up high again. YouVersion is going to put the text in there. Depending on the font that you choose, you may run into some issues. I'm going to put a little blank line there between the verse and the verse reference. Now we're ready to save this image. I tap on Save, and once I do that, that is saved to my YouVersion image library. So if you use the YouVersion Bible app but have not yet created an account, I encourage you to do that. This is now saved to my library, so I can come back to this anytime. It also gives me the option to share this right now. If I tap on Share, it is going to bring up a list of share options, but generally you're going to see your social media apps. You're going to see messaging, Bluetooth, or I can tap on Twitter, and it's going to give me both the text here. This is my tweet. I can edit this, of course, to get rid of that verse reference. I don't want to share this on Twitter right now. I'm going to click on X, and now we're back to our option here. Let me just show you real quickly. If I go back, exit out of here, I'm going to deselect my verse here. If I tap on the Home button, you're going to see now that I actually have our image now saved in our YouVersion library so that we can share it anytime we want. But very quick and easy, use the YouVersion Bible app to create your own scripture graphics. Presenting your verses visually will attract a bit more attention, get more people looking at them and engaging with whatever it is that you're posting.